Uh, Janot Klemm. Again, I apologize if I have pronounced your name wrongly. Over to you.
Okay, sorry. No, that was perfect. Perfect pronunciation. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my
Yeah.
slide?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Please go on. Yes.
Okay. So my name is Janusz Klemm. I'm a PhD candidate at the Center for Development Research at the Bonn University. And I want to present a very small snippet of my PhD research, where some of the data that we've collected, we found an interesting association with increased food budget and how it shifts overall dietary patterns towards foods that are risk factors for NCDs. Because we have very limited time, I'm going to skip a lot of the methodological work and the background work that usually would be in this presentation. But I think we've all seen a good amount of food environment frameworks in the last 2 days. So I hope that will be forgivable. So the key question that we're trying to answer with this section of the research is how behavioral and socioeconomic drivers are associated with food choices and the eating patterns of adolescents. And so our target group are junior high school students, they're 12 to 15 years in Accra and Ghana. And what's important to know about this target group is that unlike the primary students in Accra, they do not receive any institutional school feeding. So everything they eat, everything they consume is based on things they buy or they bring from home or they get for free, but there's no institutional handout of a school meal. So the survey that we conducted cuts across the food environment framework, and I want to focus on 3 elements here. First, the background characteristics of the individuals that we collected, then information on individual factors that we collected using a CAP survey. So these are knowledge, attitudes, and practices towards healthy eating. And then information about the budget that they spent on food in the preceding 24 hours. And then information on their usual diet. So we did a dietary recall using the DQQ methodology that was developed by the team around Anna Herforth et al. And the main outcomes I want to speak about are really outcomes about diversity in food groups. So we have food group diversity score. We have the NCD risk, which is a measure of diversity of risk foods. So those are associated with an increase in NCD risk. Then we have the kind of like counter to that, the NCD protect score, which measures a diversity of foods that are associated that you should encourage your consumption of. And then the global dietary recommendation score, which is an arithmetic combination of the risk and the protect, and it kind of like balances it out. So the data collection that we did was in Accra. So collected last year in 3 districts, in 12 schools. Around 430 students were part of the study sample, and we also collected information on 1,400 vendors that were usually around the schools. But I'm not going to speak very much about the food environment data. So the main finding of looking at individual drivers of dietary intake is that we see that students with a larger daily food budget consume both more favorable and more unfavorable foods. So in this, I've selected a few indicators here that show this quite nicely. The bars are different budget groups, the lowest being kind of like 0 to 5 cities, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and above 15. And we see that as budget increases, so does the food group diversity score, so does the percentage of students that consume fruits on the day before, but also the percentage of students that consumed sugar-sweetened beverages. So it's now interesting to ask, well, if it increases, if both are increasing, do they increase in parallel, or is there a shift towards more favorable or more unfavorable foods? And for this, we fitted a multiple robust linear regression model. And the main outcome is that we see just increasing budget actually decreases the global dietary recommendation score. And that is quite clear that it's due to an increase in the NCD risk foods. So that's on the very bottom of the coefficient plot. I've highlighted the association with budget for all 4 outcome groups. I hope this is big enough on your screens, but you can see that the budget group for the NCD risk increases the most, and increases it more than the NCD protect, and therefore the GDR score reduces. So one of the problems with the linear NCD or with the linear dietary scores is that there are a lot of trade-offs. So I was interested in, within my sample, there are some positive deviants. Those are individuals, or those are students that have a positive trend. So they would eat more favorable foods than unfavorable foods. But there are also some individuals that have mainly unfavorable diets. And then there are some individuals that have low diversity across the board. So we wanted to see, well, what drives whether a student belongs to one of these individuals. And so there we fitted a logistic regression, and we found that whether or not students diversify their diet into favorable or unfavorable direction occurs independent of budget. It's mainly driven by practices and attitudes. Doesn't have an association with knowledge. But of course, those students that have very, very low diversity, they have lower budget than the other groups. So what we are currently concluding with this data is that eating more food groups in general is associated with a higher budget. So it's almost like a first order condition. You need to have some money to be able to diversify your diet. But whether or not you're diversifying your diet towards a favorable or unfavorable direction, that really comes down to, and we call this a second order condition, to the attitudes and practices. So with this, I want to wrap it up and basically say the next step is that now we're including the quantitative food environment information in our statistical models to be able to account for external factors. And in that, I'm also really interested in hearing if other researchers have already identified a very good measure of the food environment that has explanatory value in their statistical models. So thank you very much for your attention. And these are some pictures from our research. And if you have any questions, this is my email. Thank you.